Welcome to Cryptid Radio. I'm Adeline. I've rigged up this relay tower to bring you this broadcast on the cryptids and creatures of the area. I come up to change out the holotape when I can. It gets pretty crazy out there. Guys, I'm down here at the Wayward to get some supplies, and there's some guys out back. One of them is talking about seeing the old man of the mountain. Now, he could just be talking about some crazy old guy in the woods, but if my West Virginia history is correct, they used to call Bigfoot the old man in the mountain. I'm gonna go out and ask him about it. Excuse me, sir? I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard you talking about the old man of the mountain. That used to be the name people called Bigfoot around here. Can you tell me what you saw?
Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about. A few weeks ago, my buddy Dale and I were hunting red stags up by the Tyler County Fairgrounds. We got up there late, so we had to set up camp. We're getting old and can't see well enough for night hunting no more. You know, the old age nips at the eyes. Dale was getting ready and the fire going while I was setting up the tent when I heard what sounded like a branch snap. Now, this wasn't no little critter running through no twigs. This sounded like one of them big, thick branches snapping in two. Dale turns to me and says, "Frank, the death claws from the island don't never leave now, do they? We aren't too far from there." I tells Dale, "Nope, they stay right there guarding their nests." "Must have been a dead branch or something falling from a tree," I said. When we're all done, we take a seat around the fire to bullshit. We're sitting there for a few hours, eating beans and Nuka-Cola. At this point, it's about 12 a.m., midnight. Dale is telling me about this big fish he saw the other day in a river when we hear another branch snap and then a big thud like a boulder, just smack into the trailer. Dale's eyes got big as saucers. He says, "Frank, we got to get out of here. Something in these here woods, and I don't think it wants us here." I said, "Dale, it's just the old man of the mountain. He ain't gonna harm nobody. He's just a hunting." So we go back to sipping our Nuka-Colas. That's when I see him, clear as day. He's a Bigfoot, right there at the edge of the trees, and he don't look like the friendly old man of the mountain my granddaddy told me about. No, ma'am. He looked right pissed off, and his eyes, they was glowing red. He let out the loudest roar I ever did hear, and that's when Dale and I, we booked it. We left right out of there, tent and all, just up and ran. Now, I don't think that Bigfoot fella would have attacked us. I think he's just angry he's in his hunting grounds. He just wanted all them rad stags for himself, and he can have them. Dale and I, we just gonna find a new hunting spot from now on, assuming Dale ever recovers from what looks like rattle hands. I've heard you can only get that from mongrels or death claws, but Dale is still shaking something fierce after that night.
Oh my, Frank. Thank you so much. Do you think what you saw could still be up in the woods around the fairgrounds?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I don't think no one should go poking around up there. All it did was roar at Dale and me, but what if we hadn't left? It looked angry enough to rip the head right off a scorch beast in one go. No, ma'am, no one should go messing around up in those woods.
Thanks again, Frank. I hope Dale gets better. You keep your eyes open and stay safe out there. Holy crap! I gotta go look! Okay guys, I'm out here in the woods around the Tyler County Fairgrounds. I looked around for a bit. I didn't see any signs of Frank and Dale's camp, but that doesn't mean much. Raiders could have found it by now and taken it all down. So I'm setting up my camp and waiting to see if I can encounter a Bigfoot. Alright, my camp is all set up. I figured I'd fill my time waiting by telling you the history of Bigfoot. Believe it or not, pre-war, there was more information on Sasquatch, Yeti, Grassman, Almas, Yowie, Skunk Ape, and all the other variations of the Bigfoot-type cryptid than any other cryptid out there. The locations they were sighted were studied extensively, and many pieces of evidence were collected. But somehow, pictures and videos were still scarce. There were also never any bodies found to be studied. I have a theory on this, but I'll share that later. In general, Bigfoot are between 7 to 10 feet, ape-like humanoid creatures with large hands and feet. Their fur color varies depending on the region, and they're all said to be extremely strong. But also, they're all said to stink horribly. Some describe it as a skunk smell. Others have described it as a skunk that rolled in dead animals and hung out around a garbage pit. Ooh. Bigfoot appear to be older than recorded history and have roots in many different cultures. Most of the names for Bigfoot mean wild man or hairy man. There are glyphs discovered in caves of a hairy man that would now be over 1,500 years old. The glyphs depicted the hairy man being an animal-like large protector that ate the creatures that would harm people. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers and Mexican settlers spoke of the Los Vigilantes Oscuros, or Dark Watchers, large creatures that stalked their camps at night. In 1721, a priest that lived in what is now Mississippi reported stories of large hairy creatures in the forest that would scream loudly and steal livestock at night. In 1846 was the first published report claiming a Bigfoot footprint was discovered in Arkansas that measured 21 inches long. In 1851, two men, again from Arkansas, were hunting when they saw something that bared the unmistakable likeness of humanity chasing a herd of cattle. After pausing to look at the men, it escaped into the woods with great speed, leaping from 12 to 14 feet at a time. The Vermont Watcher and State Journal reported on the incident. Is there someone or something there? Oh dear, Frank's story has me all on edge. Anyway, in July of 1924, an event that was eventually dubbed the Ape Canyon Incident was reported in the Oregonian and eventually made national news. There was a conflict between a group of gold prospectors and a group of ape men in a gorge near Mount St. Helens. It was reported that the prospectors encountered gorilla men near their cabin. One of the men said that he struck one of the creatures with rifle fire. As a result, later that night, the men reported their cabin was being attacked by the creatures. They were throwing large rocks at the cabin, damaging the roof and knocking the man that fired the shots earlier unconscious. The men fled and reported the incident. Later, the U.S. Forest Service investigated the site. They found no compelling evidence of the attack and concluded it was a fabrication. But that didn't stop the people of the area telling stories of large hairy ape men, calling them mountain devils, making the area forever called Ape Canyon. In 1929, J.W. Burns, a government agent that worked with indigenous tribes, published a collection of stories in a magazine called Introducing BC's Hairy Giants, a collection of strange tales about British Columbia's wild men as told by those who say they have seen them. It was quite a title. Burns is actually the person to have coined the term Sasquatch, derived from the word Saskets of the Halkomean language, meaning hairy man. He described the Sasquatch as a tribe of hairy people that always lived in the mountains of British Columbia in tunnels and caves. In 1958, Jerry Crew, a bulldozer operator for a logging company in California, discovered a 16-inch set of human-like footprints sunk deep in the mud of the Six Rivers National Forest. When he informed his coworkers, many claimed they had seen similar tracks on previous job sites and also told of incidents of 450-pound oil drums being moved without explanation. The logging company men began referring to the culprits as Bigfoot and told the Humboldt Times of the occurrences. Soon after, a plaster cast was made of one of the footprints. A photo of Crew holding the cast appeared on the front page of the paper in October of 1958. The story spread rapidly across the continent, also spreading the Bigfoot name. I'm not even looking this time. This one is a favorite of mine because it's from back in Missouri in July of 1972. Doris was in the kitchen when she heard her two brothers screaming from their backyard in rural Missouri. When she looked out the window, she saw what looked like a massive, dark-haired, man-like creature with a pumpkin-shaped head and large, glowing orange eyes, holding a deceased dog. That was the first of many sightings of what locals began to call Momo the monster. I find the large head deviation from other Bigfoot creatures interesting. Bigfoot sightings, studies, and documentation continued right up until the war, from what I could tell from my studies. As far as explanation goes, no one ever came up with a solid answer. You'll always get the hoax explanation, scientists insisting people were just making things up to get some kind of fame. But that one's no fun. Some scientists theorized all the sightings were just the mistaken identification of the American black bear from afar. Others have proposed that the sightings were escaped great apes from zoos, circuses, or exotic pet menageries. Then there's the idea that Bigfoot are actually just wild humans or hermits living in the woods. There's also a possibility that Bigfoot is a being that scientists thought were extinct, the Paranthropus, that had a gorilla-like skull and a bipedal gait. Fossils of this being have only been found in Africa, though. But my favorite explanation, and the one that I'm more likely to believe anymore, is that Bigfoot are interdimensional beings. I mean, we've seen aliens. How far off could this theory be? I think Bigfoot are intelligent beings that have discovered teleportation in the form of interdimensional travel. There are portals that they walk through to get from one place to the other in their world. But to do so, they have to walk through our world for a short time. This is why we never see any bodies. It could also be the reason for the smell. Maybe the traveling causes a smell. Kind of like when people say they smell sulfur when a demon is present. I don't think they're violent either. I think that over the years, they seem violent to us because humans have been violent to them. People, especially in the North American region, have always seemed to have a shoot first, ask questions later outlook when they come across something they don't know. So word has spread in their world that our world is a violent one, that they should travel through swiftly, and if they come across any beings, to act fierce as to not be attacked. I know it's a little hokey, but like I said, aliens are a thing. Even Mothman and all the other cryptids are a thing. So why can't this theory? Oh, wow, what is that smell? I can't see anything.
Thought I remembered this place. That smell. Like home. Old meat.
Oh man, it's just Grandma and Charlie. Grandma must still be carrying around some prime cuts from Meat Week. They gotta be bad by now. I don't think I'm gonna find a Bigfoot tonight. I'm just gonna get some rest and head home in the morning. Who knows what Frank and Dale ran into out here? Until next time, keep your eyes open and stay safe out there.